If the Republican federal tax plan is approved, how appropriate would it be for New Jersey to enact a millionaires tax, as the new governor wants to do? Governor Florio?
Well, it wouldn't make it easy. It won't make it any easier. It's not going to be easy to do in the first place. But the fact of the matter is we really have a need for revenues, and that's one of the options to get the revenues. But the federal action, the Trump administration's action, is going to make it very difficult to try to assess a tax, any tax, because the cost of living will continue to go up and the resources will be limited.
If it passes, it's going to hit the middle class and on up. And we already have a group of people who are this way, that way about whether they're going to stay in the state. And they happen to be some of the richer people. We're a state now that depends much more heavily on income tax than 3/4 of the other states in the country. So if these rich folks start moving out in greater levels, we're going to lose money by imposing taxes, not gain money. So we got to think very cautiously. And I suspect if he does his homework, that the new governor is going to decide, at least right now, it's almost impossible to put additional tax on top of the federal tax if in fact it passes.
How dependent is New Jersey's budget on the income tax revenues?
Well, income tax revenues are a fairly substantial part of the income tax and the sales tax are sort of the major sources of funding. But the revenue is not the problem. I mean, if you think that we have to do more to make higher education affordable, if you think that we should provide preschool to students all across the state, if you think we should improve the transportation system at New Jersey Transit, we have to have revenues. So spending is not the problem. Revenues and resources are the problem.
So could the federal plan really back the new governor into a corner in terms of revenues in this state, do you think?
Well, it can. There's no question it can. And it's such a difficult problem because Jim's right, we need to do all those things and more. But if you start driving the people who pay the bills, I'll tell you when you find out in New Jersey how we depend on income tax. When there's some sort of a stock market drop, all of a sudden we have very big problems in the New Jersey budget because we are so dependent on the income tax and particularly the people at the higher end. So if we start to lose those people and they start going out in a flood, and all they have to do is run around across to Pennsylvania. They don't have to go to Florida to find a much lower tax situation. We're going to be in deep trouble as a state, and we got to be very careful in our tax policy not to end up losing a lot of money and a lot of good people and a lot of job creators, and that's the problem.
I mean, that's a very good insight. But another insight is the fact if we have New Jersey Transit that doesn't work, if we have our school systems not being fully funded, those are things that keep people here as well. So it's a balance between the resources needed to maintain the services and the level of services adequate to meet the expectations of people.
Do you think Phil Murphy understands the need to work with the legislature on an equal basis in this solving this problem for New Jersey?
I think he does, and I think he has an approach that I think has not been the approach for the last 8 years. That is that the governor has to be the motivator. The governor has to be the initiator. You can't just take hands-off approach and say the legislature should come up with the answer. The legislature, by definition, is not really prepared to be the initiative. That's why we have an executive branch. The executive has to come up with the proposals.
We're coming up to a lame duck session, Governor Kean. What could you expect? What can we in New Jersey expect from that session, do you think?
Nothing good. Lame duck sessions always used to make me nervous because legislators don't have to run anymore for 2 or 3 years or 4 years or whatever. And they try to pass things the public doesn't really want and hope they'll forget about them by the time they have to run again for re-election. So, and the old administration is trying to get things through maybe before they leave that the new administration doesn't want or won't do. I look at lame duck session as not a chance to get something positive done, but maybe it's an opportunity to stop some things that would be very bad if they did them.
If there could be some collaboration between the old administration and the new administration, you can get some things done that you'd like to get done as quickly as you can to get them off the plate of the new incoming administration. So there is some potential value to the process, but Tom is correct there's a lot of mischief that can be done as well.
Well, the next chapter is still to be written. Governor Florio and Governor Kean, thank you very much for sharing your views.
Thank you, Ken.